It's official. Mars is in Pisces. I, the Blue Ray Bodhisattva, am a Mars in Pisces native. This means my Mars is in Pisces. Mars will be in Pisces until April 30th. This Mars in Pisces transit is going to be very important to understand in the coming weeks as it pertains to the much anticipated solar eclipse slated to occur on April 8th. The solar eclipse will be packing a stellium in Aries, with Venus in Aries 4 degrees, North Node in Aries 15 degrees. The Sun, Moon, Chiron huddled together at 19 degrees, and lastly, Mercury retrograde at 24 degrees. Aries is ruled by the planet Mars, which makes Mars the rolling planet of this eclipse and influencer of all the planets in Aries during this time. It is extremely significant that with this amount of planets in Aries during one of the most profound eclipse cycles, the ruler will be in Pisces the entire time. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, marking the spring and new beginnings. Aries is an initiator energy that acts on impulse to take action towards its desires that are relative to its authentic individuality and raw expressive nature. Aries is cardinal fire, which is all about character and identity. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, mutable water that takes the form of gas. Pisces comes from the 12th house, the domain of the subconscious, where we are able to access the divine or supernatural. It is also where all of our unconscious psychological belief systems live and operate, and how our subconscious belief interface with our supernatural co-creative abilities to manifest what we experience in the mundane reality. Of course, there is so much more to break down and explain the energy of Pisces. If you've been following me long, then you've read and heard speak in so many ways about astrology and how I interpret current conditions. Mars, in Greek mythology, is the god of war. Mars governs our iron and metals, tools and weapons, machinery. Mars also governs our blood and sex drive. Mars is the energy that provides the fuel to take literal action towards the desires. Without Mars, we wouldn't have an ability to outwardly direct our energies towards concrete manifestation. In men, you can tell what kind of children he will offspring due to the type of Mars he has. If a man has a Mars in Libra, his children will have a slightly higher intellect than most people. If a man has a Mars in Cancer, his offspring will be very tribal and nurturing and empathic. If a man has a Mars in Pisces, his offspring will be very spiritual gifted and very open to connect with spirit. You get my point. Mars is also how we face conflict and assert ourselves. Mars is the masculine warrior energy in us all. When Mars is in Aries, he is very strong and impulsive and very self-centered and will punch someone in the face for stepping on their shoes. Whereas for someone with a Mars in Libra, he will be more diplomatic and composed. In Pisces is when Mars becomes the sleeping warrior. Mars has spent the last 2 years moving through all previous 11 signs of the zodiac, and now in Pisces is when Mars gets to rest, heal, and realign. In ancient Roman times, when warriors will go to fight in battle before returning home, the warriors would go to a temple to be with the Vestal Virgins, where they would be washed away of their contributions to war. There is where they would process, rest, eat, and even make love before returning home to their families. This is so they wouldn't bring home any ghosts or hauntings. In Native American culture, they would have sweat lodges to purge and connect with spirit. So when Mars is in Pisces, collectively, our inner masculine assertive ego energy is returning to the inner sanctuaries to heal and rest. Generally, Mars doesn't not like to be in Pisces because in Pisces is where he must put down his sword, lower his defenses, and calm his ego in order to have a spiritual experience that realigns him and reminds him of who he really is. The total solar eclipse is the beginning of the end of the world, which I have talked about on many occasions. The reason I say this is because currently Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn is the ruler of physical reality. In the Kabbalah tree of life, Saturn represents that last Sephiroth on the bottom of the tree, representing Earth. Saturn takes approximately 28 to 30 years to move through the entire zodiac before starting a new cycle in Aries. Saturn is also the planet that the global elite worship. They use Saturn's power to rule the psychical matrix. In ancient Egypt, the pharaohs had to go through a ceremony that lasted days, maybe weeks, where they had to go through challenges and test to prove that they are still fit to rule. This ceremony was coincided with the Pharaoh Saturn return, so every 30 years they had to do this test. With all that being said, Saturn being Pisces is the indication that this current world matrix structure is coming to an end, as the next level of New World Order agendas is getting ready to be implemented when Saturn moves in Aries by 2025 through 2027. We go through this every 30 years. However, this is the first time in approximately 180 years that Saturn will be moving through Pisces and entering Aries with Neptune. This is a very, very rare and significant event. This eclipse in Aries taking place on April 8th marks the beginning of the end of the world, and with Mars being in Pisces for this event, signifies that now is the time for people to regress from the outer events of the world and return to the inner divine sanctuaries of your spirit. It is going to feel strange because with so many planets in Aries, we are going to feel the pressure, the agitation, the conflict, and the spark to respond, react, and take action. However, with Mars ruling the scene, he is asking us to be still and go within first. More on this to come. I, the Blue Ray Bodhisattva, leave you now. Love and light, death and darkness, full spectrum.